Good evening and welcome to In the Garage Sports Podcast with the Craft Emporium in downtown Bellefontaine, 120 West Chillicothe Avenue. And our special guest this week is, I'll just start the show this way. I think he is the best male athlete in Benjamin Logan school history. Slash Predmore. But some of his former players, they kind of look like bodyguards. They're big, strapping, strong-looking guys.
They're my crew.
Yeah. But anyways, Lance Predmore is our guest. He graduated from Benjamin Logan in 1994, and we're going to go back to those days a little bit. Then we're going to talk about 2025 Benjamin Logan football team. There's a couple of Predmores on that team. Lance's son's a freshman and a sophomore. First, Lance, thanks for stopping out tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Haven't seen you for a long time, but you still look good. You still look young. I think you could probably go out there and carry the football a little bit.
Well, I got to try to outdo my kids still, so they beat me up pretty good nowadays. But, when they were younger, I used to stick it to them.
Okay. Well, when you think about your playing days, we're going to talk about that a little bit. High school and college, you're a really good player at Urbana University, too. But when you go back to the early 90s, what are some of the things that come to your mind? It might be anything, not just the wins or the scores or what happened. It might be a bus ride or whatever, but what comes into your mind about that?
Really just camaraderie with the teammates, just the competitive games that we had. Really just being able to look back and see how football has kind of evolved and changed over the last 30 years. Since it's been that long since, we played in high school. Ben Logan, back then we were a strong team, right? We ran the Wishbone. So we literally would play against teams that would put 9, 10 guys in the box. We'd have one receiver out wide, sometimes no receivers, and everybody's on the line. It was almost like rugby. Big lineman, 260 across the board. So I was talking to Jim Reese and Ryan Parks about the size of the line and both sides of the ball that we had back in that early 90s team. So what we wanted to do as a team, play solid defense and run the football, control the clock. We really had a great mix of players to do that with.
Ron Moyer was the head coach. And Benjamin Logan's rolling. It was a different time as far as like the schedule. If you just moved here, maybe you followed Benjamin Logan for a couple of years. It's kind of apples to oranges to compare them, to be fair, because Benjamin Logan was a pretty big school enrollment-wise compared to most of the teams you played. And, throughout your whole high school career was pretty consistent winning. When did you know your team was going to be good? Like, did you know 9th grade, 10th grade? Because players know this stuff. So when did you and the guys know, hey, we're pretty good?
So middle school, I think our 7th and 8th grade year, if I remember right, I think we finished like 5-2 both years. And I think both years, NELA beat us for the middle school championship. So to go along with the rivalry that we still have with the great school in NELA, so we kind of felt like with our class and then the classes that were already at Ben Logan, the ones coming in behind us, we just kind of stacked classes on top of each other. So if you get stacked 3 or 4 classes on top of each other, you're going to be able to win a lot of games and compete in a lot of games.
Okay. You're the school's all-time leading rusher. Throughout your high school career, what positions did you play?
Well, I started off playing receiver when I was a freshman. Quarterback, got moved to quarterback, kind of in receiver freshman year. Middle school, I played quarterback. Played some defense in middle school. And then the sophomore year, it was kind of a strange coincidence. So I was a backup to a very talented player named T.J. King, who was a senior, who started. And it was actually, I think it was the day of a game against Marysville. We always opened Marysville. He rolled his ankle. It was either going to lunch or something. He rolled his ankle off a curve, and he was out. So I found out that day at school, hey, you're going to be starting at Marysville tonight. So, when you're 15-year-old young man, finding out you're going against this Division I powerhouse. But I was ready for the challenge, and yeah, that's kind of what started it. I kind of was like, if I get a chance to get on the field, I'm not planning to stay there.
Did you have success right away?
We were a pretty good team.
Got your position on him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to say sophomore year, like I said, we ran the wishbone, so we threw maybe 30 times the whole season. I probably had close to 1,000 yards. But we probably 800, 900, somewhere in there. And sophomore, I think I had probably 12 touchdowns, something like that, on the ground rushing. And then my junior year, we had the same group back, same offense, ran the wishbone. Big year that year. We lost. So that would have been, I think Triad won of that year. Triad had some really good teams back then. Really good teams. Tony Hook, Greg Howe, they had some good teams. So yeah, our junior year, they got us. So I think that kind of motivated that team to come back when we were seniors. That like, we're not losing. And we didn't plan to 10-0, but the goal was always to win every game. And it took a lot of talented guys to get that done. A lot of very good talented coaches to get that done. But it was exciting.
I would say your claim to fame of those that are listening to In the Garage here at the Craft Emporium. Lance Predmore's claim to fame is speed. Were you always a fast guy? Like in junior high or elementary, one of the fastest guys in the school?
So junior high was kind of in the top 5, I would say. Somewhere between my freshman and sophomore year, I was the fastest guy on the team. I started running probably in the 4.6 range, and just kind of took about a 10th off of that. So when I graduated, I started out at 4.5 that junior year. And I got down to 4.4s, high 4.4s, 4.47, 4.46. I was just
very fast.
So
very fast.
Like running the ball, vision is very important. Seeing the running lanes, reading your blocks, knowing how to set blocks up to help the guy blocking. It's something I tried to excel at. We had a lot of guys that were very unselfish players. We talked about Ryan Parks. He would be 1,000-yard rusher on any other team. And he was a 220-pound lead blocker. And he had about, I think, 125 tackles as a senior. He was all-conference player, all-district. Brian Jordan, the state wrestler. He was another lead blocker. He was probably almost 220. So I had 2 fullbacks, essentially, and a huge line that I talked about earlier. Jim Reese, one of those guys, who's 6'2", 260. So, for the style of football we wanted to play, it was physical, very physical style, very different in today's game. Still physical games, very physical players, very talented players. But
what do you remember about Ron Lawyer? Because I believe he's fast.
Yeah.
He is fast. But for those that maybe have heard that name, they never met him, maybe even never saw your teams play, what was he like as a football coach? I mean that twofold. What was he trying to do strategically, and then what was he like as a person and as a man?
So my story, Coach Lawyer, tremendous coach, tremendous teacher. When I was going to be a freshman, I wasn't going to play football. I was just going to kind of focus on basketball and track. And one of the assistant coaches said, "Hey, Coach Ron Lawyer, the head football coach, wants to talk to you." And I said, "Ron Lawyer knows who I am." So I laugh about it now, but that's why I played. Because he said, "Hey, I think you should play. You're pretty good, I think." "Okay, Ron, I'll play." So that was kind of how that got started. And he was very good, hiring relationships with other staff members, kind of letting them do what they were really good at. And everyone had strengths and different, things that they brought to the table within the coaching strengths. Ron was a great motivator.
Okay. All right. Who else do you remember from your coaches back then in football, Benjamin Logan? Any other assistants, maybe a coordinator, anybody that maybe they're younger and you stay in contact with them? Anybody, any other names?
Steve over here, the defensive coordinator for all those really good Raider teams. That 93 team, we had 6 shutouts. I think we only allowed 34 points. And I looked up a statistic we were talking about the other day at practice. Early 90s teams didn't throw the ball as much as they do today, right? But that team had 26 interceptions.
Oh,
the team.
That's quite a stat.
That's 3 a game. For early 90s football, right? So
that's a lot.
Yeah. And
part of that was because the other teams were behind.
Well,
I mean, that's a good point. Really, I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But part of it also must be pass rush and good athletes in the secondary.
Very good, yeah. Most of our secondary guys were juniors. I was a senior class. We had the 2 seniors back there, but Daniel Ashcraft, boys went to Bell Fountain. He's a very good player. Matt Bechtel has some records. Phil Logan, very good player. Sean Schaffner, very good player. I think Matt holds the interception record. 3 interceptions in a game. He did that a couple times. That's a pretty good record.
Well, okay. Are you still close with your teammates? I know some are here tonight, but you guys still do stuff?
So we have social media now, so that helps us stay in touch. We kind of were talking about how different it was growing up, back in the late 80s, early 90s, compared to how kids interact today, right?
Way different.
Like way different. Not even comparable. So, but yeah, we stay in touch. Some of the guys still coach at different schools. Some have been Logan. It's ironic that some of the guys that I went to school with, their kids are the same age. We didn't plan it; it just worked out that way, right? So we kind of get to see the second generation of guys that you went to school with. So
yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
And we want to talk about your 2 sons, a freshman and a sophomore. Lance Predmore is in the Garage Sports podcast tonight. Pretty big crowd here again at the Craft Emporium in downtown Bell Fountain on West Chillicothe Avenue. There are a few seats available if you want to get something to drink or just stop by and maybe hook up with some of your friends or folks you haven't seen for a while. You have 2 sons, and that's I know that when I talked to you before the show, you really lit up about this. That's a normal mom or dad reaction, but Wyatt Predmore is the older son. He is a sophomore. He played last year. I got to see him play in the game in Benjamin Logan was at Bell Fountain. I was really impressed with Wyatt. I know the game didn't go the way he wanted or the Raiders wanted, but he competed, and myself and Rick Reed talked about that. And, if you're going to compete as a freshman, you're most certainly going to compete the next 3 years. I don't know much about Gabe Predmore. I've not seen him play, but maybe I will get to see him play a little bit in a few weeks. But how about your 2 boys? What positions they do and kind of their skills?
Before I talk about them, I got to mention my daughter, Meadow Predmore, is a 6th grader. She may be the fastest out of all of us someday. I just had to throw that out there. Meadow Predmore, she's amazing daughter. She has her dad's build, which is it's funny. She's awesome. So I had to give Meadow a shout out if you're listening.
She's going into 6th
grade, yeah. So
all right, yeah. Well, that's important. We don't want to.
I don't say very good. Takes out
so we'll go from the youngest to the oldest, Wyatt Predmore. Some things that stand out about him. How you would describe him to somebody who'd never met him, and then his skills on the football field.
So Wyatt's gonna probably be embarrassing to tell this story anyway. So everybody's kind of seen that movie Forrest Gump. Okay, Forrest Gump had the leg braces when he was a kid, and then you remember the scene where he just takes off running and these braces just fly apart as he's running down the short road. Wyatt was a toe walker when he was a kid, 3 years old. He was a toe walker, so we had to get him fitted for special leg braces to keep him from walking on his tiptoes. His calves started getting huge calf muscles, and everything was on the tiptoes. They were worried about him falling and just developing properly. he had those braces for about a year and a half. And I don't know if that had anything to do with his speed development or athletic development. That's always a story I remember about Wyatt with with the leg braces.
Was he a fast guy, right? Like in elementary school?
Yeah, he's got, he's a very humble kid. He is. He's a very good teammate. He's very coachable. I would say are some of his best qualities. We spent a lot of time going to camps this summer, working out, trying to develop his game, and he cares a lot about Coach Jenny, Benjamin Logan, and his teammates. And he just wants to help be part of, a transition, success, winning some more games this season. So,
And Wyatt's probably, 6'1", 6'2"?
yeah, it's pushing 6'1" right now. I'm looking down on Dad.
Well, you're tall. I don't know, it's all relative. You're a little bit taller than I am. But anyways, kind of a, I guess I haven't seen him for a while, but I would say kind of a lanky build.
Yeah,
kind of a guy that looks like he could do a lot of sports to me, like a basketball player, maybe a baseball player, a track guy. I mean, that's how I see him. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah. So last year, his freshman year, he was the same size, height, and weight that I was when I was a senior. So he's, now his body's changed a little bit over the years. He's thicker, like his legs were a little thicker. Now he's kind of more streamlined, his muscles have developed, and, it's kind of going through changes, so.
Okay. What kind of a quarterback would you say? Not compared to you, just high school football today. Is he a passer, a runner?
I would probably say he's a dual threat. Yeah. He's worked really hard developing his passing game, but he's got some speed. He's a driver's camp, versus one.
That's really good.
He ran some high course, like a 5.9 in Miami, Ohio. Track was great for him, ran track this year. He just really helped him see them towards a stretching, doing different weightlifting exercises.
He's fast. How about elusiveness? I call it wiggle. Any of that, or he's just kind of a straight line guy?
He's developing, kind of seeing the running lanes. They talk about kind of setting up your blockers and kind of helping them out. He's getting better with that. I was telling about my open field moves and the spin move. I tell him hit the circle button, and I'll show him little highlight films, and I'll like, look at this move, all the time. This is how your feet work, or this is how you kind of set this up. So he's actually seeing flashes of him do it, which is pretty cool to see.
Okay. Does he want to play? Does he want to be a college football player?
He does. Yeah, his goal kind of, we started in middle school. He's like, Dad, I just want to go to college, go to school and learn. He's like, and I'll play at any division. He's real open, He's like, I just want to go play college football.
And he's only going to the 10th grade. I mean, these kids, we kind of push them. That's kind of the nature of the sports, I guess. They start so young with development and camps and really very good, very specialized coaching compared to when we were kids. But is he a quarterback at the next level? Would you guess that's his position for college?
I think so. It's all just going to depend on, his work ethic. He's a very hard worker. But, when you get to that level of college, everybody's talented. There's guys running 4.5s, throw the ball 70 yards. A lot of good talent out there. He's young. Like I said, he's a sophomore, and he's still, growing and developing. But he's in a really good spot right now. Been over the program, like I alluded to with Paul Jenny. The staff members there doing a great job. And I just kind of, I'm a volunteer assistant coach. You are a volunteer coach.
But a volunteer assistant with a lot of resume, a lot of credibility too. You're not just a normal guy.
Yeah, I talked to you earlier about one day I made fill up the water bottles, and next day I'll, kind of tell guys how to block or how to run or, different angles to put their hands to catch a football. So, but I do I just kind of fill in and see where I'm needed.
All right. How cool is the coach for your kids are playing?
And it's very cool. So some people may not remember we played. So Benjamin Logan, 1990 was the first year in the high school, the new school as we call it. We moved from Zanesfield to where it is presently. But the football stadium was not done yet. So we were still playing in Zanesfield. So we played in Zanesfield for 2 years while going to school at the new high school. So our junior year, we finally got the football stadium open, and that was pretty cool. So that was in 92.
Yeah.
Open against Marysville. I was fortunate enough, I brag about it all the time. I scored the first touchdown on that field back in 1992 against Marysville. So now it's kind of come full circle with turf field. Bill Harmon, the activities director, along with the administration and Logan, done a great job.
Great facility.
Oh, they're just pops.
And you walk in, it pops.
The field is so nice. The weight room facility, the track, practice facility, it's nice. Basketball courts, I mean, it takes very good care of the school.
Now we got to talk about the middle Predmore. We got Wyatt, youngest is Meadow, we touched on. Now we got to talk about Gabe Predmore. He's going to be a freshman. What position, what kind of a guy, off the field, how would you describe him, and then kind of his skills on the field?
So Wyatt is kind of quiet. He's not quiet, but he is quiet, where Gabe is not. Gabe is the life of the party. You want to hear people laughing and having a good time, go find Gabe Predmore. Go find GP. So, Gabe's the guy who gives me the gray hair and the wrinkles. But he's a great kid. He plays slot, receiver. Plays a little defensive back. So he's done a great job, working hard.
Another fast guy?
Yeah, he's getting there. His 40 was around 4.9, 5 flat this year.
He's a freshman.
Yeah, and he's young. He could actually be an 8th grader. He just turned 14. So he could actually, and I told you, he's about Wyatt's size. He's almost he is 6 foot. Probably about 165, 170 pounds. So to see these two compete, they go at it sometimes.
Does Gabe play any other sports?
Basketball, and then he runs track.
The same as his brother.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of time together. No question.
Those are some of the funnest times, just after games, getting to hang out and talk to him about situations during the game or plays and things that happened, maybe bloopers that happened during the game that they remember. We kind of get to talk about and joke around about on the drive home. So
You're listening to In the Garage Sports podcast tonight here at the Craft Emporium in downtown Bluff, Belgium. They are our sponsor here this summer as we head into the fall. Here in a couple weeks, depending where you go to school, maybe a week, like at Richmond, kids are already back at school. Some of the other ones go back maybe early September. So the school year it's getting close. It's getting close, and that means football. So let's talk about the 2025 Raiders. I think they're on the upswing for sure. I've been impressed with Paul Jenny from the moment I talked to him. I know the record the last couple of years is not a normal Paul Jenny record, but wherever Paul is at, they do win. So it's coming. What has stuck out to you about Paul Jenny? And you can take it wherever you want. You know him better than I know him, but what stands out about him?
he is a great motivator. He's very smart. You can tell that he's been around a while. He's very organized. And, he's good at motivating the kids. The numbers have been great. We have a lot of strength as far as coaches at Benjamin Logan. Jeff A. was a very successful coach at Benjamin Logan. He's a defensive coordinator. Paul brings all his years of experience there. Also have Riley Akers, Joe Webb, Coach Steele.
Is he your neighbor, by the way?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's a young guy.
Yeah.
He's a younger. You got all extremes here
Yeah,
in the ages.
He's got a little mix of the older guys and the younger guys. So, yep.
Okay.
I think Roddy played at Denison.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Joe Webb's on the staff. Joe, funny story about him, he played receiver at Urbana University. He actually broke a couple of my records. So I had always wanted to meet him, and I heard that he was coming to coach up in Logan. So we really got a good chance to, hanging out with Joe over the past year, talking about Urbana days. I think he was there 2010 to 15. So it was about 10 to 15 years after I was there.
Joe Horn?
So Webb.
Or Joe, yeah, from Mechanicsburg.
Yeah, so Webb.
Yeah, he was very athletic.
Yeah, he was good. Very good coach. So he's also on the staff.
Okay. What did Paul do to kind of change the mindset? Because, sports are a repetition alike. If you're in the habit of losing, human nature says you might keep losing, and they're in the habit of winning, you might keep winning. And he had to kind of change things. So how did he, there's an excitement I see at the games. How did he kind of change it?
He's a fighter. He's a fighter. When you're in sports, you are going to fail. That's just part of it, right? It's about getting you back up, right, and having another go at it. And Paul is very good at getting kids, to buy into the hard work, the lunch pail mentality. The numbers have been great. I think we're up to around 82 kids in the roster, so it's been very good. We have solid middle school coaches, so we kind of, things are going in a great direction.
Cool.
Paul is, a huge reason for that.
For those that love football, maybe watch the Buckeyes or back in the day, Cincinnati Colerain High School, my comparison on what he looks like and what he demonstrates. I'm not saying he's the same coach, but he looks like him and kind of acts like him is Gary Combs. You can see the Buckeye. He kind of has the same haircut.
Yeah.
Somebody poured about 5 pounds of sugar down his mouth before the game. I mean, he's very, very excited.
He's got a ton of energy, and he brings it every day. He does. And that's another thing about Paul that sticks out. He knows how to motivate guys. He kind of game plan and strategize. And if something doesn't work, trying to figure out, the way to where it can be successful.
Does he remind you, by the way, I ask all kinds of questions. That's my nature, obviously. Does he remind you in any ways of Ron Royer?
A little bit, yeah. Ron was a motivator as well. I remember the pre-game speeches. I know players remember their coaches, right, that they played with, and they'll remember some speech that they heard along the way, right? That's just
part of the deal.
Yeah, that's part of being an athlete. Ron, I remember some of his speeches, and Paul Jennings, I know the guys on the team are going to remember some of Paul's speeches. He's got some great motivational speeches before the kids take the field.
Very cool. How would you compare where a bunch of Logan's football team is at right now? Early August. First scrimmage is probably tomorrow. Compared to last August, how is it different?
The fast forward button has been hit. Like we had talked about earlier, we started off 0-7 last season. We played competitive games, and we got really close to winning a few of those. And we finally broke through against North Union. We've been on a 3-game winning streak, and the guys just really bought in and believed. We got more confident. You can just see it in the body language. And that's really carried over to the offseason. The guys have been hitting the weight room since December. Logan knows a lot of kids play basketball. Craig, they play baseball. So they're putting in time, out of season.
And that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Is this I'm trying to visualize the team. Is it a big team? Is it a skilled team? Is it a fast team? Like, what do you anticipate?
We have a good mix. We're going to be very similar last year. Very solid defensive unit. Very aggressive defensive unit. And offensively, we're going to do some of the things we did last year. We got a good running back coming back. Good, really good talent everywhere. So I think we should be very competitive.
Who do you scrimmage first?
So we play Kenton and Marion Pleasant tomorrow at Kenton. I think that's a 6 o'clock start. And then next week we are at River Valley.
Or the Jamboree, as they call it. And they kind of make that as seem-like as possible. You live with two of the players. What are they saying about finally getting to do it for real and not be a practice? Like tomorrow is real.
We call it getting fresh meat. Get some fresh meat. Like they want to see some new faces, and they're tired of competing against their own teammates, right? They want to start playing against other, athletes from other schools. Not just kind of a natural procession of things when they're in sports. So yeah, they're looking forward to that. Looking forward to all this hard work they put in. Kind of seeing where that's going to put them.
At your house with Nicole, your wife, and Meadow, and Gabe, and Wyatt, did they ever ask you questions about, some of the best teams in school history, Benjamin Logan? Is there a lot of reminiscing at the Predmore house?
Oh yeah, I have an award room downstairs. I got some plaques, and different things hung up. When they were younger, growing up and seeing plaques and trophies, and we would talk about things. So yeah, they're pretty good sports historians, I would say, especially local teams, not Ben Logan, but all the local teams, college teams, pro teams.
And my wife keeps you away on our podcast tonight here on In the Garage Sports Podcast with Craft Emporium in downtown Bell Fountain. That's why you hear the conversations in the background. People are maybe having a drink, having a good time here on this beautiful Thursday night in downtown. Football has changed in a few ways since you played. One of the ways, and I can speak to this side, is the media. Football, I think, has always been the biggest sport. Like when you went through school, I would say it was the biggest sport in the school, in my opinion. Some might debate that. But now it is, there's streaming, there's all kinds of more radio broadcasts than ever. There's people that come out to cover you that might write a blog on the internet. So it is a big deal. And your kids are growing up in that era. I'm going to tie this into a guy that just graduated. It's down the road from Benjamin Logan, and that's Fabian St. Clair. They're a little bit older than Wyatt and Gabe, but 3 or 4 grades. I'm sure they kind of followed him, and your oldest son is a quarterback, so I got to think, this is all spontaneous. I didn't ask you this question before the show. I got to think that they've talked about that. What have they said about the kind of the publicity our area got the last few years? Or that position, that player.
Yeah, so, a lot of respect for the Bell Fountain program. Xavier is an incredible player. Wyatt actually got to work out with Jay Kennedy during the summer, and Xavier would be working out there as well, so that was pretty cool seeing them together. Xavier's brother, Rain, we talked earlier, he's got a cannon, he's got a good arm, and Wyatt spends some time working out together in camps.
And that's why I brought that question up, even though it's not a Benjamin Logan player or family. But now Rain, the next quarterback at Bell Fountain, I've only seen him play really twice in my life. Half at Indian Lake last fall, then at 7-on-7 about 3 weeks ago. Rain is the same grade as Wyatt. Do they talk much about this stuff? I don't know if they ever see each other.
Yeah, they went to the Iowa University camp, and Rain was there, and they ended up getting right beside each other, started chatting it up, because they familiar faces from they'd seen each other in football and basketball. So they would go through all the passing drills together. So that was pretty cool to just sit back and be a spectator and just kind of watch them hang out and just, be a kid.
Okay. What made you to get a quarterback ready now compared to when you played? I know you ran the Wishbone. It was very run heavy, but what does Wyatt have to do to learn the position and get good at the position? What did they go through?
So, really, I didn't learn this till college, just paying attention to coverages, what the defenses do, right? Like in high school, just give me the ball and I'm going to run, right? That was it. And as a quarterback, you have to be kind of calm demeanor. You have to be an emotional guy, but you got to have some sense about you to read the defense, kind of see them, where your matchup is going to be, what coverage are they in, cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, man zone. Like, a lot of stuff happens pre-snap read. So, what is it, 35 seconds between plays?
I think so, yeah.
Getting the play from the sideline, feeding that play back to your team, getting the team to the line, reading the defense, and then trying to make a play with the ball, right, with the other 10 guys out there.
Now, after you graduated from high school, you changed positions. You went to Urbana U.
Yeah.
And really started as a receiver. What was it like college ball compared to high school ball? What was it like also to change positions?
The receiver position was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Just to be really good, the nuances of route running, and just being really good at running routes, catching the balls, and DBs, which is as fast in college. Like, if you're running 4.4 and 4.5 in high school, that's elite speed, right? But when you get, in college football, there may be 10, 15 guys running that fast. Where in high school, we may have a couple, right? So the competition was amped up. So you really had, everybody's talented. You kind of talked about that earlier. Playing college football was talented. So then it really comes back to the details of the position, knowing how to read coverages, when a man or something. And I spent a lot of time scouting reports. I mean, I knew guys' address, I knew their height, their weight, their girlfriend's name. Like, we did some deep dive with our scouting reports.
That's a great answer from Lance Predmore, our guest on the Garage Sports, the podcast tonight here at the Craft Emporium. Just a couple things. Let's go back to the 2025 Raiders. Who the team plays the first 5 weeks and kind of what maybe some of the goals are this year.
Well, boys, like I said, put in a lot of work. So we're going to come out first game. We open against Bluffton at Bluffton. I think 7 out of 10 games last year, teams made the playoffs that we played against. So we're going to have another tough schedule this year. The league's going to be very competitive. CBC's very competitive league. Our non-conference games. Bluffton, South game. Urbana's another game we picked up.
Oh, here. I did not know that.
We picked up Urbana. Tecumseh we picked up this year. South Fountain, Indian Lake, Union, Shawnee, and Grant.
So the first 5 weeks would be probably, I'm not sure about my order, but I think I have the opponents right. Bluffton, West Liberty, Salem, Urbana, Bell Fountain, and Tecumseh.
Correct. 100%. Yeah.
All right. Bluffton's exceptional last year, and sometimes you can't judge a school by its size. They're not a very big school. I think they're D7, D6, but they've been really good the last couple of years. West Liberty, Salem, their deepest team ever now. I know they graduated quite a few players and made a coaching change, but I still would guess they're pretty good. Who's the big rivals for that? I'm talking to Wyatt Predmore. Who's his 2 or 3 big rival teams? He's really excited to play.
Probably got to be Indian Lake, just because of the history between the schools. It's usually one of the big rivals. Bell Fountain's a rivalry game just because of the proximity and, like we live in Bell Fountain School District where we open the doors to Benjamin Logan. So those are 2, West Liberty, of course, is the local ties. So, yeah, those ones are...
When you played, who were the big rivals for your teams?
Indian Lake, West Liberty. Triad was good, had some good teams. Mechanics had some pretty good teams.
That part for some of the teams like in the 90s that were so good. They never got in the playoffs.
I never played Bell Fountain. We never played Bell Fountain.
They never got in the playoffs.
I never played Bell Fountain.
It was hard to get in the playoffs when you were going to the school.
It was. They only took 4, I think.
4, I think.
Yeah, I think we finished 7th. I think we finished right outside Good noon.
Well, now you're also a teacher of the school, high school.
Yeah.
What's your subject area?
American history, world history.
Cool. Okay.
History's off.
Are you loving life right now? I mean, could it get much better? This is about as good as it gets.
It is. It's, I feel like I'm around some incredible people, raised by my parents, my brother Travis. Just we had some pretty incredible values instilled in us when we were younger, and, just kind of growing and developing as a parent, as a human being, because giving back is very important, right? And that's what I think when you're in coaching and in teaching, a lot of it is giving back, giving of your time and your energy, to help people, really. So that's what I get a lot of appreciation out of that.
Okay. Well, good luck. Tomorrow at Kenton, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah.
Okay. Kenton and Marion Pleasant. Marion Pleasant traditionally is pretty good football. I mean, they've got some really good teams.
Yeah, they're very good.
And then your Jamboree is at River Valley.
It is. Next year.
Your first game is 22nd of August, home or away against Bluffton?
At Bluffton.
At Bluffton. Okay. Lance, thanks for coming on.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Lance Predmore, Benjamin Logan, great. I again call him the greatest male athlete in school history. He's school's all-time leading rusher, and Lance was good in a lot of things. He can play a lot of different sports. His two sons are two of the young Raiders to watch for this fall, Wyatt Predmore and Gabe Predmore. I don't want to leave out Meadow Predmore either. She's in 6th grade, so she's still kind of a young buck, so to speak.
Yeah.
But our show sponsored every Thursday night by the Craft Emporium, downtown Belltown, 120 West Philadelphia Avenue. And this has been the In the Garage Sports Podcast. We'll be back next Thursday to talk some kind of a ball sport, I'm sure. For Lance Predmore, Alyssa, our technical director, and the rest of the crew here at the Craft Emporium, I'm Bill Tipple saying have a